Welcome back as we continue with more conversations right here on Good Morning Namibia. Now, as Namibia prepares for the regional and local authority election, the role of journalists becomes even more vital in shaping how the public understands political developments, party manifestos, and the overall electoral process. Now, through accurate and balanced reporting, journalists not only inform citizens but also help safeguard transparency, accountability, and trust in a democratic process. Now, Tirie Masawi, editor of the Namibia Business Review, joins us now today to discuss the crucial role of journalists and the impact of their work during elections, from shaping public opinion to promoting credible and ethical reporting systems. Good morning, sir, and thank you so much for making time to speak to us this morning.
Good morning. It was a pleasure.
Okay. Now, in terms of the elections, as now Namibia prepares for the upcoming regional and local authority elections, how would you describe the role of journalists in shaping the public's understanding of the electoral process?
Well, I think the basics is that the journalists are supposed, media houses and journalists generally are supposed to inform voters across the country, to be able to inform them properly so that they can make decisions, inform them about party politics in Namibia, generally about programs that political parties are going through, their campaign programs and the messages that they've been decoding. So generally we are supposed to just make sure that we decode as much as possible in terms of what party political programs from different political parties are, to assist everyone understand what each and every political party stands for, and also just generally to break down what these regional and local elections are all about.
What defines responsible and ethical reporting during an election period?
Well, I mean, journalism does come with a lot of burden and also responsibility. So ethics makes a hallmark of journalism very, very important. I think when we are reporting about elections, generally we need to be as factual, accurate, and make sure that we do have a balanced reporting as much as possible. So when you talk of ethical reporting, I don't think elections is not a topic that you break down all messages or important messages that you are sending out in a manner that our readers and listeners could understand. So ethics does make a very important aspect of it. I mean, you don't just want to dish out information that is not verified. You want to make sure that you verify information. For example, if you are covering election results, you want to make sure that you verify this with the election management body. Make sure that you also, after verification, then you can let out this information. If you're also maybe reporting issues to do with challenges that maybe the election management body is, you want to make sure you verify this information first, and then you can then push it out so that it is accurate, and you also make sure that you are informing me. So,
Are you still there on the line?
I'm still here on the line.
Okay. No, that's good to hear. Just for the sake of our viewers who might be watching it, when you say electoral management body in this regard, we understand that you are referring, for instance, to the Electoral Commission of Namibia.
Of Namibia, indeed.
Now, let's talk about how journalists then can perhaps balance the need of reporting breaking political news quickly while ensuring accuracy and fairness. Is that possible in this ever fast-changing pace world that we live in today?
Very possible indeed. I mean, like what you said, we spoke about ethics earlier. There is never a time that the speed for release news should compromise ethics. So I know there is social media, there is digital media that's sort of taken over, but the whole aspect of it, if you are not certain about it, do not push it out. So if you get information, verify it. Although there is competition that you want to be the first to break it, it doesn't necessarily matter you're breaking a story, but you're breaking with the wrong news. So never at a point in journalism should speed to release news be the determining factor that it has to compromise factual reporting.
We seem to be having challenges. Are you still on the line? We seem to be facing some challenges with Mr. Tirie Masawi. We will still continue to try, hopefully, that we can get him on the line. Mr. Masawi, can you hear us?
What?
Mr. Masawi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perhaps maybe just let's take it again from the top when you're responding in terms of whether it's still possible to report breaking stories accurately and fairly in this fast-paced changing world.
It is definitely possible, Lord, to be able to dish out news in as fast a manner as possible, but as accurate as possible. Never a time should we compromise accuracy because of speed. So it is very important that even if it's breaking news, make sure that you've verified the information that you're talking about, you've gotten all the facts, then you can then release the information. There is quite a lot of misinformation and disinformation, so just releasing news as fast as possible because you want to be the first to release it and not verifying it is not necessarily the best about it.
Okay. Now, we know that the media plays a key role in influencing voter perception. How can journalists avoid unintentionally promoting bias or misinformation? We know that, after all, journalists are human beings. We know some of them are activists at the same time. And especially for those who are activists, where do we draw the line?
Well, there is a very fine line between activism and journalism, but if we are sticking to the dictates of journalism, information, dissemination, we are simply just supposed to practice and be journalists, be in the middle. Our views, our emotions, our intentions do not have a part to play in a story. If we are covering elections, our political inclinations, our beliefs, our political support does not have to play a part in what we are doing. So we are just supposed to make sure that is balanced, give everyone a chance, and take out our emotions, our personal beliefs, the whole process, because that can compromise the quality of information that we do send outside.
Let's talk about some of those challenges that journalists often face when covering elections. How can they perhaps be better supported to work freely and safely?
Covering elections, the basic challenge that journalists face is, the tools of trade, they need to be supported with the tools of trade. They need to be supported with enough in terms of resources that they need to be able to travel from point A to point B. They also need to be given enough protection. I think it's also very, very risky to be moving around. So especially for female journalists, they are covering elections at night. We need to make sure that they are properly protected. And of course, I think, like anywhere else in the world, we need to make sure that our journalists are adequately resourced in terms of for them to be able to produce information that is relevant.
Now, from your experience as an editor, how important is it, especially when it comes to fact-checking and verification during this period of heightened political activity? Everybody wants to influence the electoral outcome. Probably political parties want to ensure that they win specific areas, maybe where they might have influence. But how important is that to ensure that verification, fact-checking takes place in this period where it is so complex?
That actually is the most important aspect of our election reporting. I think we need to make sure that whatever information goes out there is verified. The key source of information in this time, I think if we're talking of results, is the ECN. No other results can be published unless they come from the ECN. Of course, I know the results are put outside, but verify those results before they go out. Results that obviously come from political parties that want to maybe push their own certain agendas. Journalists, even if we get this, we must stick to the whole journalism, verify results to the election management body, and then we can then send them out. So we are supposed to make sure that we practice very strict gatekeeping and make sure that whatever piece of information that we have is verified. Otherwise, it defeats the whole process, and it also has potential to cause pandemonium if we're doing it just for the sake of doing it.
Now, how do media outlets such as the Namibia Business Review ensure balanced coverage between political parties and independent candidates? We know this is a very hot contested issue. Some political parties always feel that others receive more prominence in terms of coverage than the others.
Well, I think just for us, just like any other media, there was obviously a challenge of our resources. But when covering elections, I think we need to try and put those ones aside. If we're covering elections, we must make sure we cover everyone equally. Give airtime to go, give space to independent candidates, give airtime and space to all political parties. It might not necessarily be practical to make sure you've covered everybody, But that is where an element of fairness comes through. You cannot always be covering one political party on your aspect unless you are inclined to that political party. But you need a multiplicity of views and opinions. So for you to be able to give this multiplicity of views and opinions, we need to make sure that we make it a policy, we make it a must that we speak to as many voices as possible, talk to as many independent people as possible, give as many political parties an opportunity to speak as possible. Of course, there are limitations. Like I said, there are resources that will probably be challenging, but also for independent candidates, they must also make sure that they make their political programs available to journalists so that journalists can be able to look at this and break them down. They cannot also just complain that they're not being covered, but they don't give their political programs and they don't make them available and they're not available to be covered.
Now, finally, what message would you like to share with both journalists and the public, especially about the importance of credible journalism in maintaining trust during the election?
I think for journalists, we have been here before. We have done this before. I think the last presidential elections, all Namibian journalists have to be given kudos. They did exceptionally well. So this is the Champions League of journalism. They just have to make sure that they give their very best. Make sure that they are ready also to work longer hours. But at the end of the day, it is important to disseminate accurate information. I think to all Namibians out there, they must just remain glued to all the media outlets in the country so that they can understand what these elections are all about, understand party political programs, and also stay informed so that they can make informed decisions.
Well, Mr. Tirie Masawi, thank you so much for making time to speak to us this morning.
Always a pleasure.